Okay. Hello and good day to all the attendees. A very warm welcome and thank you for joining us in this webinar on new trends in employee performance management. I'm Manali Vyas, your host today. This session will be for 40 minutes along with a question and answer session. The presenter for today's session will be Kavita Kalyan Sundaram. She is HR specialist in performance management system for Synergita. She has several years of experience in handling and implementing PMS for several companies. Before handing over the control to Kavita, here are some housekeeping instructions which I would like to share with you. For everyone's convenience, all phones are set to mute. If you have any questions, please type them in chat window located beside the presentation panel. We have already received several questions from the registrants which will be answered by the speaker during question and answer session. We will continue to collect more questions during the session as we receive and will try to answer them during today's session. In case if you do not receive answers to your questions today, you will certainly receive answers via email shortly. So thank you for your participation and enjoy the session. Over to you, Kavita.
Thank you, Manali. A very warm welcome to all. In this webinar, we'll be looking at some of the latest trends that are emerging in employee performance management space. We have been analyzing the performance management happenings in the past few years, and so I would be sharing with you our understanding of what is happening there. And I also have several years of experience interacting with HR managers of various companies to implement the performance management software for them. So I will also share some of the latest practices that our customers are following as well in the employee performance management. Before going into the details, let me just give you a quick view of what would be the agenda of today's webinar. So we'll be definitely looking at what is happening in the latest, what organizations are doing in the performance management. So that is something which we'll be looking at. I'll also be giving a quick recap of the current performance management process and what are the problems associated with that. We'll also be looking at some of the new performance management practices that are emerging and how various companies are embracing this trend. And we'll also be looking at some of the benefits of the new trends. So that would be the agenda of today's webinar. Adobe abolishes annual performance reviews. Microsoft axes its controversial employee ranking system. Deloitte is redesigning performance management. I'm sure that in recent times, these news headlines have been capturing all our attention. When Adobe got rid of the annual performance reviews, it was considered very risky and experimental by many analysts. But if you see the latest trend, according to a survey which was conducted by a corporate executive board, which they did in Fortune 1000 companies, so the number of employers that are either ditching the numerical ranking of employees or tossing out the entire performance review process has grown from 4% in 2012 to 12% in 2014. So in numerical terms, if you see from 40 companies, it has grown to 120 companies in 2014, even in Fortune 1000 companies. So we are seeing the trend is towards adopting some of the new practices in performance management. And some organizations do a radical change by even tossing out the annual performance reviews, and you will see that the latest addition to this is Accenture. Is performance management broken? In the next few minutes, we'll try to understand some changes that are happening. Before doing this, I would like you to answer a survey. Are you happy with your current performance management process? So we will have a survey. If you could just fill that in. Okay. Thank you for answering that. Let us look at what is the current performance management process or the traditional process that is generally followed in many organizations. So goals are set at the beginning of the year. goals or objectives for employees are set at the beginning. It is followed by an interim review. Most organizations have a 6-month review in which the goals are, in which managers see whether employees are, the progress of employees towards the goals. And then there is an annual performance review. So every year, at the end of every year, there is an annual performance review. And most organizations have a rating. So they do a rating for each of the goals that are set for them. And after that, the employees' performance are categorized into grades. So employers are given grades, like whether they are into high performers or average performers. So grading happens. And most organizations also have a normalization. So this is to make sure that there is no, they force fit into a bell curve. So that is what happens, to make sure that there is a fixed percentage of high performers or average performers and so on. This is something called force ranking. And after that, there is an appraisal meeting where a manager shares the rating and the grade to the employee. So there is a one-on-one discussion between the manager and employee to review the performance of the year, followed by salary increment. So most of the organizations do this type of a performance management. So this is the general thing that happens. But actually, there are a lot of problems in following this approach. So one major issue is a recency issue. So the recency issue, by recency we mean that managers remember only past few months of an employee performance. So it's very likely, you know, people can't remember the entire year's performance. They give rating only based on employees' performance in the past few months, and so employees are not happy. So this is one problem. Then when there is a rating, bias automatically comes in. So when there are a lot of problems, so a lot of different rating errors. So one is a central tendency where managers try to rate employees. If there is a 5-point scale, they will always rate them in the midpoint, or there can be personal biases which might creep in when rating, or some managers might be very lenient. They want to always give a higher rating to employees. So all these bias in rating comes up. Then there is also a problem of surprise element. So what happens is, when these reviews happen only once a year, once in 6 months, employees get into either a surprise element. I mean, they might think that they have been performing well, but at the end of the year, when managers share the performance, what they think that employee has performed at the end of the year, so it sort of mostly comes out as a disappointment to the employee. So that is an issue. And then ranking employees and fitting them into predefined bell curves. So those are all demotivators. So what happens is, employees don't want to be compared to other employees. So that's an issue. And then the end of the year reviews are also associated with too much of paperwork, time being spent by the HR, by managers. You know, they want to rush through and make sure that they complete on time. So they have to fill long forms. They have to remember the past performance. So all of this leads to a lot of time and effort from different people, and then and these do not actually convert to real performance benefits at all. So it's all done after the event happens, so it doesn't help in performance. And then, so if you see, there was a survey that was conducted by Deloitte, and the executives questioned, they think that almost 58% think that the current performance management neither drives employee engagement nor results in high performance. So performance reviews have become more like an annual ritual. So a check mark that it has been completed. So most of them think it's a HR requirement and they just comply with it. So that is the current state of the performance management. Let us look at what is happening. What are the new practices that are coming into this space? Performance management is not abolished. So if you notice that we have been hearing that performance reviews are going away, but as long as employees do some meaningful and purposeful work for employers, there will be some type of a performance management that will happen. So managers or organizations would want to make sure that employees do what is needed for them. So that is this. So the performance would have to be managed. But what is going away? So on an analysis of the trends for the past few years, so what is getting abolished is the forced or stacked ranking of employees into a bell curve. So this is something which most organizations are trying to move away from. So they don't want to force fit employees into a normalized or a bell curve mode. And then some organizations are also doing away with the annual performance reviews and ratings. So they think they're just trying to move away from this. Let us try to understand why this is happening. So for the bell curve or the normalization is a statistical analysis. So what happens is it equally distributes people above and below average, and then a small number of people go into two extremes. So if you see in case of performance, there will be an average performer and a lot of people around that, and then very few exceptional or very few low performers. So this is what happens. So it's like a statistical analysis, and most organizations are comfortable doing this for a couple of reasons. One is they predefine it. So what happens is they predefine their what should be the percentage of top performers, what should be their average performers. When they do this predefinition, the grade inflation doesn't happen. So they don't end up, management doesn't end up seeing 50% or 40% at the top and 40% average. So to avoid the grade inflation, there is a predefined distribution by organizations, and this has led to some problems. So one is definitely you cannot fit the performance of employees into a bell curve. So that is something which you have to allow them to naturally flow. So there might be multiple people who are performing well, star performers in an organization, and very few low performers. So it might happen. So you cannot necessarily put them into a normal distribution. So there is something called a power law distribution, which is also frequently a possible way of looking at the performance. And another problem is when you do this force fit, what happens is there are some people who are pushed into low performers even though they are not. So just to make sure that they have that 10% thing. So some performers who are actually average, so they are pushed into low performance bucket, and some organizations even let them go of the organization. So that's why it's popularly known as rank and yank method. So most organizations felt that this does not work anymore. So you can't just fit them into a bell curve and do these things. So that's the reason why they're trying to eliminate this. And the reason why the annual performance reviews and ratings are eliminated is because people think it's a HR requirement. So that's what is happening. So people think it's a HR requirement, and they just do it for the sake of doing it with no real performance benefits. And as we saw earlier, ratings, when managers have to do ratings, so it is a lot of pressure for them. They don't know what rating to give an employee, so a lot of pressure to give the right rating. So that is also a reason why rating is also getting eliminated. So this is what is abolished. Let us look at what is being brought in. So we know that right now what is being taken away by organizations. So what are they trying to bring in? One is the timely, constructive and meaningful discussions. So this is what most organizations are stressing on. An interesting thing to note is most organizations already do it very informally. So some managers do have a frequent discussions with employees, make them perform well, give meaningful feedback. So all of that is happening even now. But as an organization, this is getting more importance. The importance of giving having continuous and meaningful discussions with the employee, where a lot of things happen. So in this meaningful discussion, not only past performance is judged. These discussions help the employees know what is expected of them in a very frequent interval. They know, and in case if they have if they're not able to perform up to their goals, feedback is given immediately so that they can take corrective action and all of that. So this is very important, and this is what is being brought in by many organizations. And then the second one, if you notice, is focus on employee development initiatives. In current days world of where there is most of the organizations are moving into knowledge-based organizations, and there's a lot of stress on teamwork. So in these type of organizations, it is better to focus on employee development initiatives, like for instance, helping them develop a particular skill, how they are able to innovate. So all of this, if they are focused and if they are improved on, automatically the performance of the employees will improve as well. So this is also being brought in. So if you see, there is an author, this book called In Search of Excellence, and according to author Tom Peters, dynamic employee evaluation is the need of the hour. So what essentially he means is it has to be agile. So the performance evaluation or performance discussions has to be really agile to be meaningful. So that is what is being brought in by many organizations. Let me just come into what is. Let's just quickly have a look at what organizations are like Deloitte and Adobe are doing with respect to their performance management process. So one thing is definitely they are going away from the annual performance rating and review. So they're trying to. There is no bell curve. There is no annual performance review as such. And there are no ratings. So this is something which both of them are doing. And both Adobe and Deloitte have something called check-ins. So check-ins are nothing but the brief conversations that allow the leaders to set clear expectations, to comment on recent work. It can be either positive or negative, to review the priorities and provide course correction and coaching. So these are the brief conversation. So it sort of has the connect between the manager and the employee, where manager helps the employee to perform well. So this is what is happening. And also in Deloitte, they have a quarterly review or end of project review, where team leaders are asked to provide their rating for 2-3 questions. Like for instance, one of the questions would be like, given what I know of this person's performance, I would always want him or her on my team. So there is a 5-point rating associated to this. Then there is another question that says, given the compensation, there is another question like, is the person ready for promotion today? So these are the questions that are given to the team leaders, and they are asked to fill this in as well. So this is just taken for the compensation discussion. So based on this, they take it for promotion or compensation discussion. So this is also happening in Deloitte. Let me just have a quick look at what our current customers are doing with respect to bringing in the latest trends. Radisson Blu GRT is a 5-star hotel based in Chennai. They have very efficient continuous feedback or instant recognition culture within their organization. So what happens is they have something called a Bravo Award. A Bravo award, any employee can give it to any other employee. For instance, if a chef thinks that a housekeeping person, he wants to give a Bravo award to a housekeeping person for fantastic cleanliness or something like that. So he can go ahead and give that. It sort of motivates employees. It sort of recognizes performance instantly. And if you see the statistics, almost 3,000 awards were provided in the past 1 year within their organization. So this is a way of continuous recognition. AM Motors is a Maruti car dealership based out of Kerala. Here what happens is every month managers set targets or goals for the employee, and they also review the past month's performance and help them to achieve the future goals that are set for them. So it's like periodical monthly conversations that happen between the managers and the employees. Their goals are set, and the goals are the previous goals are looked at, and any problems are solved, and also help in future performance as well. So that is what AM Motors does. But they have these things are cumulated. See, these monthly feedback or is cumulated to arrive at an annual number. So this is what AM Motors does. PI is a organization which provides financial products and services to people, and is based out of USA. And they have monthly mandatory one-on-one discussions between the managers and the employees. So the discussion points can range anything. So employees can come up with a list of points they want to discuss with their managers, or the managers can bring in the list of discussion points. So it is like mutual understanding of how to help them improve their performance. So this is what PI does. So that's what our current organizations, current companies do that way. And looking at the benefits, so basically this leads to a collaboration model instead of competition. So one of the main problems is people who are ranked or rated, they feel it's very competitive, and instead of being collaborative and instead of working as a team, they compete with each other, which is not a good trend in organizations. So the bringing in these new trends of eliminating rating is going to help in a more collaborative approach. Employee engagement. So definitely when employees are, frequently managers communicate with employees and give them guidance to help them achieve the goals, they're going to feel engaged with the organization, and that is going to in turn help in reducing the attrition. Then if there is no rating, then definitely the biases element is going to go away, and annual reviews, if people are going away from the annual reviews, time will get saved and there will be no unnecessary paperwork, and overall these trends are going to help in better performance. So that is what is going to happen. So there is people are going to concentrate on performance, which is important. So if you see until now what is happening is the performance management is done for many various reasons. For instance, they would want for salary revisions, they would want to do performance management for understanding what would be the external training that is needed, or to rank between employees. So multiple reasons, for multiple reasons, this annual performance review is happening currently. But if we are going to go in where there is a continuous interaction, this is going, and rating goes away, this is going to actually turn out to help employees to perform better. So that is what is going to happen because of this. So I just want to summarize our understanding. So what we think is definitely the bell curve is going away, which is a very good trend, because we don't, the bell curve in the sense the normalized or force fit into a bell curve. So that is going away, which is a good trend, because you don't want people to be just pushed and rated according to some predefined percentage. So that is going away. And some organizations have also eliminated the annual performance reviews and ratings. So this is something which we have to see how they are going to still give the compensation decisions. How are they going to help them in promotion or arriving at the salary increment? So we are not sure how that is going to work. In case of Deloitte, if you have noticed, they still have a couple of questions on which team leaders would have to give a frank opinion. Very, very simple ones, but still whether they have whether they would want this employee to be in their team again. So these would help in finding out the performance of the employee, and compensation decisions might be slightly arrived at based on these answers to these questions. So in some organizations, this would happen. But in some organizations, they would want to just eliminate the normalized or forced ranking, but still would want to allow a natural curve to form, natural performance curve can form, and based on that, they would arrive at the compensation decision. So this is what we understand from the current trends. So there might still be a link between there would still be a link between the rewards and the performance, and how organizations are going to do it if they don't have the annual performance reviews. So that is what we have just looked into. I think it would be good for organizations to try these things. I mean, we don't need to do something very radical by eliminating the annual performance reviews and ratings altogether, but definitely one thing which we can eliminate is that forced ranking. So that is something which is force-fitting people into different grades, percentage of people into different grades. That can go away. I mean, that is a simple change which organizations can do. The continuous conversation, so that is a great way to help in performance improvement and also helps in improving the morale of the employee. So that continuous conversations can happen. So that can be brought in by many organizations. That can be brought in by organizations. And performance-based rewards can be provided. For instance, spot rewards or instant rewards can be given. And we can still have the annual performance reviews and ratings, but these addition of these things is going to make it much more simpler. The annual performance reviews will take much lesser time if these continuous conversations happen. There'll be no problem with employees. Employees would be aware of how they stand with respect to the performance. So these, it is going to be much more easier that way. I think that is what I have right now.
Okay. Thank you, Kavita. It was a wonderful session. I hope everybody enjoyed. Now let us see some questions from the participants. Okay, so here we go for the first question. First question is, managers generally have a tendency to keep employees happy to tend to give a decent rating. How would we handle this? Kavita?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, Manali? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, sure, Kavita.
Yeah, thank you.
Managers generally have a tendency to keep employees happy to tend to give a decent rating. How would we handle this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, I agree with you. You know, generally managers try to keep to give employees a decent rating, so that, as you mentioned, to keep the employees happy as well. But rating is also associated with other errors as well. For instance, some managers try to always rate them in the middle of a scale. Say, for instance, if it's a 5-point scale, they want to give an average rating at all times. So there are other errors also that might creep in while doing the rating. I think one thing is, when managers are educated about the possibility of the various errors that might come when they do the rating, then they might be a little bit more aware of this and provide a proper rating. And the second thing is, I think most organizations are trying to do away with the rating just for this reason. I mean, they know that managers' rating maybe with a lot of personal bias and other things might creep in, and that's one of the main reasons why organizations are trying to do away with the ratings and instead give more qualitative and meaningful discussions with the employees. So that is why I think that that's becoming the trend right now. If they eliminate the rating, managers would be really frank in giving the feedback, and employees would also take it in the right spirit, because there will be no comparison. If they're not provided any rating, they can't compare their rating with someone else. So I think that's one of the reasons why this rating is going away. Yeah.
Thank you, Kavita. Okay. Let's see another question. Many companies have abolished PMS. Instead, they have started daily reviews. How has this been perceived by the employees?
Okay.
Over to you, Kavita.
Yes, thank you. I think we cannot consider it as a daily review. It is more of a discussion, a meaningful discussion that happens between the managers and the employees. And they necessarily need not be just assessing the past performance. So instead of that, they would be looking at how to improve the performance in the future, what would be the goals, clear expectations of what is expected of them. So it would be more of that sort instead of actually reviewing the past performance alone. So I think most employees and managers have taken it in the right spirit, because employees know that it is for their own development that this conversation happens, and managers also have a responsibility to make sure that employees perform what is expected of them. So this is taken in the right spirit as far as I know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Kavita. Okay. Let us see another question. If the bell curve is abolished, how does the HR maintain or allocate the budget at the time of appraisal? Is long tail an ideal curve for an organization with limited average budget of around 7 to 8? Kavita?
Okay. Yeah. I think if the bell curve is abolished, organizations can still make sure that they stay within the compensation budget, because the budget is for the entire organization. If you say that 10% would be the hike, if an organization says that, the 10% would be converted to a numerical, converted into number terms, and still they would like to allocate that to different people. So say, for instance, a set of employees might get a 12%, set of employees can still get 8% or 4%, and so on. So I think it is fine to maintain the budget even without a force fit or normalization, and an ideal curve would still work well to restrict the budget to around 7 to 8%. So that's what I think.
Okay, great, Kavita. Since we are running out of time now, so I think we'll have to wind up here. Thank you all for attending the session. Hope you all had a good session over here. Your questions will be answered through email. And if you have further any questions, please feel free to send the email at info@synergita.com.